Happy Thursday, everyone. Let's talk about shame, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good time and the bad time shamefully. Let's talk about shame. Let's talk about shame. Let's talk about shame. Let's talk about shame. All right, is there anyone around and wants to talk about shame? Tamiris, do you want to talk about shame with me? So obviously, singing isn't my forte. Lots of improvement needed there. Hey, girl. I want to talk about shame. So I want to talk about shame because I am becoming aware of a massive pattern when I try to have conversation with people. Yes, let's talk about shame, baby. Is that especially people that evolve or not evolve, operate in the victim consciousness or victimhood mindset, is that they have a weapon of mass denial. And do you know what this weapon is? I have a little prop. This is the weapon. Every time you want to have a conversation, this is the weapon of mass denial. You're being told you're shaming people. Shaming is the new weapon of mass denial. And it's just very difficult to have a conversation when every time you try to share something with people, you're being told that you're shaming. And here's why it's not going to work. Because it is going to keep us even further in denial about why it's actually good to feel shame sometimes. Because sometimes there are things, there's shame, we do shameful things, and it's okay to feel shame. So I wanted to share a little story about a client who surrendered to her shame and giving herself permission to surrender to her shame was how she transformed herself. Because she realized that the reason why she needed to feel shame is to become aware of the pattern around denying herself the permission to be ashamed and repressing it over and over and over and reacting, because of course when you're in this mindset and in this energy, you're going to attract a lot of people who are going to feel that it's okay to shame you, because that's the energy you're projecting. So giving herself permission to feel the shame and really to tune into what it is that she was ashamed about was actually liberating. It was a liberating moment for her, and a huge turnout, and also the realization that shame is a feeling, shame is an energy, and before shame resides in our head. Hi, Christina, or Sistina, no, Christina. Before it resides in our head, before we start building beliefs around the shame, it's first and foremost a feeling. It's a feeling we have at the physical level. Hey, Tia. Yeah, this has been used a lot. This is used a lot. Pretty much, I think every day when I comment on something, oh, I just want to share some, you know, inspirational stories about how clients that I work with deal with shame or deal with physical element. I'm being told that I'm shaming people. So I find it very interesting how it's become this weapon of mass denial, where it's kind of like there's no room for conversations anymore. There's no room for different perspective because everything is being labeled as shaming. Everything, and ultimately, what's kind of sad about it is that it when you're stuck in that victim consciousness, it's really a testimonial, one or the other, of how very little resilience you have when you can you give so much power to what another person thinks about you, and can see it as the opportunity to really tune into yourself. And this makes me think about how we have to take responsibility of our own shame. Yes, exactly, Tia. That's exactly what it is. And I think there's so much talk about being in kind of this fluffiness of being. You have to be very very careful about what you say, and you can't hurt people's feelings, and let's not be too truthful about or too direct about how we deliver things. And it's such it's so bizarre how I see it um, as being a hurdle into your growth and into your resilience rather than helping you. Because like you said, a lot of us have a lot of things that we ought to be shameful about. There's a lot of things I did that I have a lot of shame around it, and it's my own to own, and it's my own to be responsible about, and it's my own to ultimately tune into, so it's not being used as a weapon against me, to feed and to feed this victim energy, and then to revert back in feeling like a victim because I'm paying attention to what others think about me or say about me. So hi, Joanne. So yes, it is so important to, I don't believe in telling people that shame isn't real. Shame is real. There's a lot of things that we need to be shameful about. And um and it's actually a clue, right? When someone says something to me, and my first thought is to feel that I'm being shamed, it's actually a clue for me. Why do I feel like I'm being shamed right now? What is this telling me about me that I need to look at? Because shame is connected to our self-worth, right? So what is it that I'm not taking responsibility about? What is it that I'm not expressing? What is it that I'm compromising on? What is it that I'm devaluing that is bringing this energy into me, bringing this energy into my environment, that I feel someone is shaming me? So I just gave my power away, right? And instead of owning the feeling and tuning into what it's there to learn me, I use my weapon of mass denial. And now it's not about me, right? Now it's about what you're doing to me. And I don't have to be accountable about it. So it's impossible to have a conversation when you evolve, or when you operate in that mindset. It's impossible to have a conversation because you're in complete denial. You're in complete denial. And ultimately, you're receiving the energy of shame because you're not owning your own. Right? And I'm not saying it's okay to shame, right? This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying, why can't we just take this as an opportunity to look at ourselves, to look at our inner world, and to look at what's going on inside of us that we're not owning. And to go back to what my client, and that's why it was such a breakthrough for her, because she realized that she was abandoning herself over and over and over and over. And that's why she was so sensitive around shame and around shaming, because she was really ashamed of that. She was really ashamed of having abandoned herself and not owning up to it for so long. So why can't we talk about it rather than going into denial? And why is it not okay when someone says, so here's why I was called out on shaming. So I commented, I'm part of this group, and this is a very, I call it's a very fluffy group. You have to be so careful. You have to put lots of bows around what you say. People are very sensitive. So someone was experiencing anxiety. And I've shared on this platform how I used to suffer from chronic anxiety. I had panic attacks. I had mental illness. Lots of, so operated in this world for a long time, most of my life. So again, to me, when you're part of a group and you're just sharing your experience, you want to share. So this lady was starting on anxiety medication. And her first comment about taking anxiety medication was, I'm having anxiety around this anti-anxiety medication that I need to take. And so that made me laugh. I thought that was so funny, because it's like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane how we operate, that we have anxiety and so we make a choice to go and take this medication, and because we're not owning up to our choice and owning up to the responsibility around taking this choice, now we're having anxiety about taking anti-anxiety medication. I thought it was hilarious. So I commented on that. I thought, this is so funny. It's just fucking crazy that you have anxiety about taking an anti-anxiety medication. So my question was, I'm curious, what is that telling you? What is this telling you about the belief that maybe you may have developed around your anxiety? And wouldn't this be an opportunity to look at what is this trying to teach you, and or show you, not even teaching you, show you? And then I said, especially when anxiety resides in the body first, and then it's our interpretation of anxiety that really gets us in trouble, and that's why we go insane, because we're trying to fix something that is physical, and it is at the emotional level with our rational and linear mind. So that was it. I just say that. Well, next thing I know, I'm getting this all this commenting about I shouldn't be shaming. This is shaming. And again, here we go with weapon of mass denial. How is this shaming? We're just having a conversation. I'm just offering you a different perspective. I think it's insane that you have anxiety because you have to take anxiety medication. That's insane. So how is that shaming? Right? How is that shaming? So when the person commented, I actually had 3 people commenting on that, and I said there's only shaming when you feel shame inside of you. So you're receiving it as shaming because there's something you're ashamed about, and that's really all it is. And there was no shame intended because there was no shame projected. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. We didn't go any further because it really closes the door to an opportunity to talk about what it is really there to teach us. And why do we have to be so sensitive about it? Why do we have to be so sensitive about it? Let's see, what do you say, Tamiris? The society we live in hates to have raw and vulnerable conversation. Yes, yes. And it, like I said, it's become it's like the new thing now. It's like as soon as you want to say something, as soon as you want to offer a different perspective, which is generally a perspective that is going to involve that you take responsibility. And that's what's so bizarre about it, is that it's every time you afford to have a conversation, you afford someone to have a conversation about taking responsibility about the choice you're making, it's deemed as shaming. It's automatic. There's no room for anything else. And yes, because as soon as you have to take responsibility, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to say, oh yeah, I'm not a victim of my anxiety. This is actually something I'm creating. Why am I creating anxiety? What is it that I'm trying to get away from, right? So, Bloom, you're closing the door. You're closing the door, and this is the best weapon, or this is the best. This is kind of like when you operate in victim consciousness, you have like these get out of jail card that you can use, so you never have to take responsibility ever for your choices or your thoughts or your action. And because you're a victim, you can literally, or you think you are, or at least you operate in that mindset, in that consciousness. It's kind of like these little these little cards you can use whenever you're being challenged about how attached you are to being a victim. And one of them is shaming. This is like the best weapon you can use to never have or never want or never be willing to get out of it, and to continue to generate this energy of how in love you are with being a victim. So it's really interesting how the sensitivity that there is around the victimhood and the victim mindset is actually self created, if that makes sense. And I used to be a master of that. I used to be a master of using my little cards to not take responsibility and defaulting back into being a victim. Oh, it's not my fault, oh, it's not my fault, I'm a victim. Oh, it's not my fault, I'm a victim. Oh, it's not my choice. But I felt shameful about it. There was a lot of shame about that, because every time I was doing that, I was abandoning myself. I was abandoning my sense of worth. I was abandoning my values, and there was shame around it. There was a lot of shame around that. So I think instead of being the weapon of mass denial, it should be our weapon of mass liberation. Let's all feel our shame. Let's all tune into our shame, and let's befriend it. Let's have a conversation with it. Yeah. So, anything else I want to share today about shame? Any questions? Any other comments? People make it mean something about themselves. Yes. Yes. Yeah. How did I get rid of shame? I acknowledged, I took responsibility for it. So I stopped denying that I needed to be ashamed. I stopped denying myself the right to be ashamed, because there were a lot of things that I was doing that were shameful, and so that's how I got rid of it. Taking responsibility and giving myself permission to be ashamed, really giving myself permission, and ultimately, when I gave myself permission, I really started. I think the biggest shift for me was giving myself permission to be ashamed, take away the density of it. And by taking away the density of it at the physical level, what I realized was on the other side of shame, at least for me, was laughter. Now, every time I feel ashamed, I laugh because it's fucking funny. I think shame is funny. Shame is really funny because I realize that shame is giving away the power of my self-worth to someone. And every time I do that, I should be ashamed of it because it's ridiculous to be doing this. It's ridiculous to be looking at someone to tell me how much I'm worth, or to be looking at someone and tell me and give them the power of how they think of, of what they think of me, or how they think of me, or what I say or what I do. Or so yes, laughter is for me is what I find on the other side of shame, because yeah, it's funny. It's funny. It's funny when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself. It's funny. It's really funny. So that's yeah. I have I have less and less and less and less shame, I have to say, about what I do and what I say, and like even starting when I started and I was singing. That was funny because I'm such an awful singer. But when I used to live in victim consciousness, and when I used to like give so much power of what other thought of me, I could have never done that because I would have been so ashamed of being such an awful singer. And now I think it's funny. It's funny. So yeah, It's like having anxiety about anxiety. Exactly. Yes. It's so fucking funny. Why would you think it's shameful, right? Why would you think it's shaming? It's only shaming to you because, yes, there's something you're doing about trying to, not look at what your anxiety is telling you that is shameful. And so, of course, you're going to think that I'm shaming you. But if you could get out of your head just for a second, right? If you could step in the background and look at what's happening, you would just laugh your head off, right? Because it is pretty insane. It's really insane. Yeah, I'm anxious about taking anti-anxiety medication. It's fucking insane to be saying that, right? So these are the two realms you can choose. You can choose to live in the realm of shame and think someone is shaming you about it, or you can live in the realm of owning your shame and think it's fucking hilarious. Your choice. But yeah, your choice. I'm choosing the laughter. So much more fun, yeah, to live in that realm. So anyway, if you have anything else to share, I'd love to tell me how you deal about your shame, or if this is something you experience in your life a lot, if you feel like you get shamed, or you get a sense of getting shamed, but by a situation or circumstances or people, or your own thoughts, and how you deal about it, or how you deal with it. Yeah. So I think that's it for me today. And leave me your comments, leave me your questions. And yep, that's it. Bye, Tia. Bye, Tamiris. See you soon.